Today on Data Dive by Market Movers, we're talking about one of my very favorite types of cards and perhaps one of the best investments in the entire sports card world. It is vintage on-card autos. Let's data dive. Hello, Market Movers, and welcome to Data Dive. No, I am not Teapot. Teapot normally sits in this chair, but Teapot just recently had a beautiful baby girl. His family has expanded. Congratulations to him and his entire family. He is out right now, so I am in the chair today for Data Dive, and I'm going to talk to you today about one of my favorite subjects, one of my favorite types of cards in all of sports cards, and it is vintage on-card autos. I love these cards for a lot of reasons I'm going to tell you about today, and I have invested in a lot of these cards over the last several years. I'm going to show you today some of my very favorites, and we're going to talk about which ones I think are a really good investment long-term and which ones may not be, because not all vintage on-card autos are created alike, and some have a little bit of buyer beware associated with them. So you need to be careful if you're going to be buying vintage on-card autos, and I'm going to talk to you more about that as we go. But first, let me show you the inspiration for today's show. There have been some incredible results recently on vintage on-card autos selling in online auctions. And by the way, all of these I bid on. I did not win the ones I'm going to show you today, but I bid on these, starting with this one. This 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle signed card. Beautiful card. It is a ballpoint auto. Ken Golden came out and said he thought this was the best out of all the Mickey Mantle signed 1952 Topps cards in existence. It sold for a record smashing $793,000 back in December, just before Christmas. I bid on this. I think I bid maybe $350,000, $400,000 on it. I did not expect it to get as high as it got, but it got there for good reason. It's an incredible copy of the card. Now, 5 years ago, it would have been absolutely unheard of for anybody to pay anything close to this for this card. But people are catching on to the rarity of vintage on-card autos and cards like this, and that is why I think you've really seen them take off in the market over the last 5 years. Let me show you what I mean. This 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card, I'm going to jump over here to the PSA population report on this card. Okay, so this is PSA's website right here, and I've gone to their pop reports. And this is 1952 Topps baseball. And just right off the bat, across the entire 1952 Topps baseball set, PSA has graded over 313,000 total 1952 Topps baseball cards. They've only graded a little bit over 6,100 that have ever been autographed. That tells you, obviously, the stark difference in the number of autograph cards that exist. Let me type in Mantle here. So here we're looking at the total number of 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle cards without an autograph that have ever been graded. You've got to add these three numbers together, 1630, and then you got 296 and 102. This is the plus grade, so this is like a 0.5, and then this is the grades with qualifiers. So if you add all of those together, you're a little bit shy of 2,000 total Mickey Mantle cards that have ever been graded by PSA. Actually, a little over 2,000, I should say, right? I'm doing the math in my head right now. That's a little bit over 2,000 Mickey Mantle cards that have ever been graded by PSA without an autograph. Now let's switch to the PSA DNA Certified tab and do the search again. And there's a total of 20. A total of 20 that have ever been graded of the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card by PSA with an autograph. So you've got a little bit over 2,000 of that 1952 Topps card without an autograph, and you've got 20 with an autograph. That is less than 1% have ever been graded with an autograph. That is so rare comparatively. And people weren't really paying attention to that 5 years ago, 10 years ago. People actually used to think that getting an autograph on an iconic card was defacing the card. I think the mindset on that has shifted. And in recent years, collectors have begun to accept it as an extremely rare artifact that actually enhances the value of the card as opposed to defacing the card as many used to think it did. And you can see that mindset in collector shift by looking at sales prices. I've gone here into Market Movers, and you can actually search for these types of cards in Market Movers. They're not featured cards. They're not going to be in our regular card database, but if you use the sales history feature, you can find them in here. Now, what I suggest doing is put in the card into sales history, so 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, and then in parentheses, I put signed, comma, auto, comma, autograph, comma, autographed. What does that do? That picks up any listing, any sale listing that's ever occurred that uses any of those 4 words. If you're searching in Market Movers and you're trying to find a listing that could have multiple words, this, by the way, this trick is helpful if you're searching for example, a Steph Curry card, because some people put Steph and some people put Stephen Curry, and so if you put the parentheses, you can put both names and put the comma between, and it will find either result. So here we're looking for cards that say signed, auto, autographed, or autographed in the description, and it will call up any of those listings. So you can see when I do that, oh, by the way, I also added a filter. I added a filter that we're looking at a minimum price of $10,000, and that's to get rid of noise, because some people will put facsimile autographs of Mickey Mantle 1952 Topps reprints with facsimile autographs, and those will get into the search results here and gum it up. So I use a filter. I'm only looking for over $10,000 in this case, so that way I get really clean results. You can see that $793,000 sale that I just showed you from Golden. And as you look down here, there's a lot of strong sales of this card that have occurred over time. But as you go back even a few years, there were some pretty nice copies of this card that sold for quite a bit less than what we just saw. I mean, there's still some pretty beautiful, this was a PSA 4 with an autograph of 9. Arguably, this card is as nice or close to as nice as the one that just sold on Golden, which was a PSA 3 with an autograph of 10. Maybe this one's slightly nicer, but this one sold for $793,000. And I would argue that this copy, where was it that it went to? I would argue that this copy right here that sold for $228,000, I mean, it is right on up there, and this sold for $228,000, what, about 4 years ago? And this copy sold for $793,000, just recently, right? So that shows you some of the price escalation that has occurred. There's another big signed Mickey Mantle card that sold recently. This is his 1951 Bowman signed card. So his rookie card, beautiful signed copy of this card, sold just a few weeks ago, late February on Golden for $244,000. I bid on this card as well. Did not win this one either, and I'll show you why I wanted this card. If you go into the PSA population report and we look at the total number of 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantles graded, you can see it's a pretty hefty number there. Over 2,700 total 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantles have been graded by PSA. But if we switch to the PSA DNA Certified tab and we search again here for Mantle, you can see that only 32 have ever been signed and graded. So a little bit over 1% of the total graded population of that 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle card by PSA have been signed. Once again, extremely rare. And once again, the copies that do exist have been going up in value. You can see that $244,000 sale that just occurred there in Bowman. Once again, I'm searching in Market Movers using those parentheses to capture all the signed copies, and I have a filter on, a price filter to get rid of all the noise out of the results, and that gives me a pretty clean result set. And you can see if you go back in time, I mean, there were copies of this card, not as nice, granted, but I mean, gosh, I would love to go back to 2017 or 2019 and pick up a copy of this card signed for under $40,000 when, you know, today they've been consistently going for 100,000 plus, and then the most recent sale, 244,000. Once again, that's a nicer copy of that card than some of the older ones, but you can see how the price appreciation has occurred on these cards over the course of time as more collectors have begun to understand their rarity. I want to show you a couple of other vintage on-card autos that sold just a couple of weeks ago at great prices that I bid on, didn't get them, but man, was I drooling over these cards. Look at this. This was on Heritage Auctions. This is the 1933 Gaudi Lou Gehrig card, card number 92, signed by Lou Gehrig. Look at that magnificent card. This was actually purchased by Patrick Ryan. He's been on our show before, a fabulous collector, has an incredible collection. He got the card for $91,500. Unbelievable copy of that card. And look at this. This is that card in PSA's population report. Only 11 of that card have ever been graded and certified authentic by PSA. So the rarity of that is incredible. Look at this one. I mean, today, collectors go crazy when they find a card with a dual auto, you know, like an Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson dual auto. Collectors love that kind of stuff. Well, look at this dual auto. This is like one of the original dual autos. Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron on the same card. And if you look in like the 1950s, 1960s baseball cards, you can actually find a lot of these types of cards that had 2 or more people on the card that were signed by both or all of the people on the card. I love these. They come up for auction a little more than you would expect. And I just think that these are so cool. I bid on this one. It went for a really nice price of over $13,000. I didn't get it. Man, I wish I had. What a cool card, right? So I love these vintage on-card autos. And thankfully, I own a lot of them. And I want to show you right now some of the ones that I own, and I want to talk about the ones that I think are the really good investment pieces and the ones that probably aren't. And I'm going to start with this comparison. I think this is a really interesting comparison here. So here are 2 of the kind of the oversized cards, the tall boy cards that Topps used to make before we got to the more standard format. This is 1969 Topps right here in my right hand and 1970 Topps in my left hand. So the 1969 Topps, this is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's rookie card signed by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And in my left hand is the 1970 Topps Pistol Pete Maravich rookie card signed by Pistol Pete Maravich. Let me ask you, which of these 2 cards do you think is the better long-term investment and why? Which one do you think? The answer may surprise you if you're not thinking about it from the same angle that I am. I think by far the better long-term investment is the Pistol Pete Maravich card, even though Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the more iconic player and the player who is considered to be the better player by many, right? With a longer career and the points record and the entire thing. Why? Well, quite simply, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is still alive and signs a lot of these cards. And Pistol Pete Maravich passed away many, many years ago, pretty young. I think he passed away in the late 1980s. Many years ago, he was young when he passed away, and there's not many of this signed card that exist. And when you're thinking about long-term investing, scarcity makes a ton of difference. Let me show you the PSA population reports on both of these cards. This is 1970 Topps. This is that Pistol Pete Maravich card. It is a total signed population of 13. We went over to the PSA DNA certified tab here on PSA's population report website. There are only 13 of this card that exists signed in the world that have been authenticated by PSA. This is one of the 13 copies. Now let's go back to PSA's population report and let's look at the 1969 Lou Alcindor Kareem Abdul-Jabbar card. And look at that, there's almost 500. Almost 500 of this card have been signed and certified by PSA. And guess what? He's continuing to sign these. You will do signings, he'll sometimes be at card shows, he'll do different signings. He's continuing to sign these cards. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually there are 1,000 or more of these cards signed and authenticated by PSA. Whereas this one, there will only ever be 13 unless, there's a chance that somebody's got a raw copy or that Beckett has authenticated some and they will get converted to PSA. So maybe over time that number goes up a little bit. But I would be surprised if this number ever exceeds 20. And I would not be surprised if this one hits 1,000. So when you think about scarcity, what makes the better long-term investment? In my opinion, the additional scarcity of this card makes it a better investment than that card. And that's something you've got to think about when you're shopping for vintage on-card autos, because it has become in vogue today to get these signed. Even players who passed away in the last few years, Willie Mays, Bill Russell, be careful. Pele, be careful. There are a lot of Willie Mays, Bill Russell, and Pele signed rookie cards and signed early cards out there. They're not as rare as you think. Why? Because people started catching on to these vintage on-card autos and their potential value in the market 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they rushed to people like Bill Russell and Pele. Pete Rose, another one, right? And they got them to sign and sign and sign and sign. Willie Mays, sign and sign and sign. So there's actually quite a number more of those. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to own them. I would still love to own a Willie Mays signed 1951 Bowman or any of those guys. Pete Rose's signed Topps rookie card. I would still love to own that, but they are not as rare as you might think and probably not quite as good of a long-term investment as you might think as a result. Let me show you some of my other cards which are rare. This is, I believe, one of only 3 of Muhammad Ali's rookie card, the 1960 Hemet's Journal rookie card ever signed by Ali. An extremely rare piece. This came up for auction a few years ago. I recognized the rarity of it. I checked the pop report. I'm like, oh my gosh, I might not ever see one of these come up for auction again. And I snagged it because I just knew how rare this was. And it was, one of those iconic, the most famous boxer of all time, his rookie card. Such an iconic card and so rare that I just felt like I had to snag it. I had to grab it. I'm really happy that I did. This is probably my most valuable on-card auto. I think that this one would probably go for $100,000 plus if it hit the auction block today because of its rarity. Very happy to have that one. You probably saw at the National a couple of years ago, I picked up this 1941 play ball Joe DiMaggio. Beautiful signed rookie card, essentially, of Joe DiMaggio, one of DiMaggio's early cards. The total population on this signed, I think it was a little over 10, if I recall, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 of this card have ever been signed and PSA certified. It was very, very low population. And then this past year at the National, I picked up the 1941 Play Ball Pee Wee Reese card. I thought that those two were pretty cool to have together as a pair. Once again, both extremely rare, extremely low population on both of those cards. Elgin Baylor's 1961 Fleer card. I think that's a pretty cool card. Gale Sayers, picked up that one a few Nationals ago at a trade night. Not very expensive. There's a number of these out there, but I think it's a pretty cool one to have. How about this? This is not a card, but to have Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig together on a cut auto. This is a cut auto, so this is a piece of paper or postcard type surface that they had signed together at some point in time. Beautiful, crisp signatures. I had the opportunity to trade for this. I believe it was at the Philly Card Show a couple of years ago. There's a video where I think I traded, I forget exactly what I traded, but I think it was some modern or ultra modern cards that I was able to trade for this. And I was like, yes, please. Like, yes, please, indeed. This is, this is absolutely outstanding and thrilled to have this copy. And here's a sneaky thing about this. I'm not intending on selling this, but this, in my opinion, will absolutely go up in value over time for one reason, besides for the fact that people just love Ruth and Gehrig, and here they've signed together. Besides for that, card manufacturers like Topps are constantly putting chase cards in products like Transcendent and Diamond Icons, and they're using cut autos for those chase cards. Here, you have a perfectly sized dual auto of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig that could easily be cut and put into a standard size Topps trading card. I guarantee Topps would absolutely love to get their hands on this particular copy of these two autographs, because this would make the ultimate chase card for them for a set like Transcendent. To have a dual auto of both of those guys, this would be their top chase card. So I know there's a market because every year Topps is buying cut autos of people like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and cutting them and putting them into trading cards. That supply will dwindle and dwindle and dwindle over the years. And 30 years from now, if I went to Topps and said, hey guys, you want to put this in a card? I bet they would freak out over it and the opportunity to pay top dollar to get this and to put it into a trading card to have the ultimate chase. So this, in my opinion, is a great investment piece for multiple reasons. And that's kind of a sneaky thing that makes that in particular a pretty cool investment piece. All right, let me show you a card. This is an interesting one. This is Rickey Henderson's 1980 Topps rookie card signed by Rickey Henderson. The late, great Rickey Henderson, one of the greatest leadoff hitter ever to play the game, one of the greatest players out there. And this is his rookie card signed in pretty high condition, a PSA 8 with an autograph of 10. Now this one is interesting because obviously, unfortunately, Rickey Henderson recently passed away. It is not an uncommon card. He signed a lot. He went to a lot of card shows and he signed a lot. And in fact, if we look over here in PSA's population report, this is the 1980 Topps PSA DNA certified. It's a big number. Over 1,600 of this card have been signed and certified by PSA. So it is a relatively common autographed vintage card as far as, vintage autograph cards go. But despite that, look at what this card did in the market after he passed away. If we come here into market movers, you can see that recent sales, I've searched here for PSA 8, so that's the exact same copy that I have, a PSA 8 autograph of a 10. These have recently been selling for $1,500, $1,600. There's one that sold for $1,300, $1,600. That's not the same thing. $1,900, that had a little inscription on it, right? So actually the same inscription this card has. It sold for $1,900. So these have been pretty consistently $1,500 to $2,000 or so over the course of the last few months. Well, let's go back in time. I'm going to go several pages back here in our search results. And this takes me back to 2023. So just 2 years ago, these same cards were selling consistently for $500, $400, $300, $250, $500. So these cards have tripled over the last couple of years since he passed away. So despite the fact that there's a lot of these out there, it's not that uncommon of a card, it has tripled in value over the course of the last few years because people, when the news of somebody like Rickey Henderson passing away hits, people want to remember him through his cards. It's common. When someone passes away, you see their card values go up. Even if they're common cards, you see their card values go up because people want to remember them through their cards. Now, I'm not sitting here suggesting that you try to flip cards right when somebody dies. None of that morbid stuff. Like, this is not a card I'm looking to sell, but it is interesting seeing the market trend, even on a common card when a player passes away, and what these cards do in the market, long term. Once again, I'm not trying to flip this. I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody's death, and I don't suggest that you do either. But when somebody passes away, their cards inherently become more valuable over the long run, just because people want to remember them through their cards, through their autograph, all that type of thing. Let me show you some others that I have here. Now, you guys may ooh and ah over this one. You guys may right away say, oh my gosh, the 1980 Topps Larry Bird, Dr. J, Magic Johnson, considered Larry Bird and Magic Johnson's rookie cards. This card is considered, and it is signed by all three of them with an auto grade of 10. Incredible card, right? It is. It's not as rare as you would think it is. Looking at PSA's population report, I can see that almost 800 of this card have been signed. Now, that doesn't mean that all 800 of these have been signed by all three. Unfortunately, with the population report, you can't tell that. You can't tell how many were signed by just one versus all three. But I can tell you that a lot of those 800 were signed by all three of them because Larry Bird, Dr. J, and Magic Johnson, they sign a lot. They're at a lot of card shows. They sign a lot. So this card is more common than you would think, and therefore probably isn't as incredible of a long-term investment as you would think, but it sure is a super cool card for the PC. I've also got Dr. J's rookie card signed individually by Dr. J. Again, not that uncommon. More of these exist than you would think because he signs a lot, but still a super cool looking card. This is Larry Bird's first full card by himself. This is 1981 Topps. He signed a lot of these. So again, not super uncommon, but a super cool copy of the card. I actually picked this one up from Patrick Ryan recently. He sold me a collection of vintage on-card autos, auto grade of 10. I like the silver ink on that. I think that hits pretty nicely. Let's talk about Jordan. This is an absolutely incredible signed 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan cards. One of my most valuable. Actually, in terms of value, this is on up there with that Ali card in terms of the most valuable signed on-card vintage cards. Technically not vintage because it's 86, whereas vintage technically kind of goes to 79, but it's right in that ballpark, right? This is unbelievably valuable, not necessarily because of its grade, which is a PSA 5 with an auto of an 8, but because of the fact that it's a gold ink auto. And because of the fact that autos show up so poorly on this card. I have another version of this same exact card also autographed by Jordan where the autograph is a lot harder to see. And that's why when this gold ink came up for auction, they're so rare in gold ink. There's only, I think, 2 of them I've ever seen in gold ink. And when this one came up, I wanted to get it. I had to grab it because of the fact that it presents so much better. And I have a complete signed set of 1986 Fleer basketball, which as a whole entity is actually my most valuable signed collection that I have. An incredible signed set of 1986 Fleer basketball. I showed it on this channel a few years ago when I picked it up, but I wanted to upgrade the Jordan autograph in that set to have one that presents better. And that's why I got this one. And I'm very, very happy to have this copy of this card. However, what kind of investment is this? I'm a little mixed on that. Because Jordan doesn't sign much, but he will still occasionally sign. And of course, there was that big story last year about him signing, I believe it was 10 of these 1986 Fleer cards, and several of them got a perfect PSA 10 Auto 10 grade. So that right there, that one signing he did for a private collector where he signed 10 of these cards and some of them got extremely high grades, that alone significantly increased the population. And so what if he does that again in a few years? What if he does a public signing because he wants some additional cash 10 or 20 years from now and signs 100 or 300 of these? That could devalue this. So I'm a little mixed on the long-term investment potential of this based upon what he does. But for the moment, it's very valuable and I'm thrilled to have it. And I just hope that he never signs one again in gold ink. Because if he doesn't, then this one is going to have a lot of value in the long run. Terry Bradshaw. This is a cool card, not very valuable. He signs a lot of stuff, but picked this one up recently, thought that was really neat. Love the PSA 10 Auto 10 Bo Jackson. Absolutely love this card. One of my favorites it's from my childhood. Bo Jackson signs a lot. So once again, not necessarily the greatest long-term investment, but a super, super cool card to have. Let me show you just a few others here before we wrap up. How about this card? This one I got from Patrick Ryan as well. I just thought this was the coolest card of Deion Sanders, where it incorporates both the baseball and football. This is from 1990 Classic. Just love the photo of that card, signed by Deion Sanders, card grade 9, auto grade of 10. I think that one's super cool. Ken Griffey Jr. in a 10-10. Beautiful. This adds quite a bit of value to have it as a 10-10 over just a standard PSA 10. He is still signing. So, as a long-term investment, there will probably be a lot more of these that appear in the decades ahead. So it may not end up being that rare of a card, but at the moment, it's an incredible card. 10-10, it will always be an incredible card. It's like the ultimate card from my childhood. The ultimate card, this is it. Because that 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. card was the ultimate chase card when I was a kid. And here it is in a PSA 10 with an auto 10. You literally can't get any better than that. That's an incredible copy of that card. How about Barry Sanders? Same deal there in a 10-10, 1989 score. Now, I know for a fact that this card is becoming more and more common because I know Barry Sanders' autograph agent, and I know that he has him sign hundreds of this 1989 score card. And so the 10-10s are becoming more common. So once again, not the most rare card, not the best long-term investment, but a super cool card, the ultimate football card from my childhood. Mike Trout, not a vintage card, obviously, but I just love the iconic nature of this card. It's certainly not the most rare card by any means, and a card that's price actually has collapsed a lot since the highs of the pandemic. But nonetheless, like you think about, baseball from the 2010s, and this is one of the most iconic baseball cards from the 2010s. 10-10, love that card. This I'm really proud of. I found this card. There's not many of these. And granted, there could be more in the future, right? Messi, Ronaldo, they do continue to sign. So how good of a long-term investment is this? I don't know. But at the moment, there's very, 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 very few of this 2014 Prism World Cup matchups card that are signed by both Ronaldo and Messi. Card grade 8, auto grade of 9. Saw this come up for auction a few years ago, picked it up. It was BGS Authentic. Took it to PSA, had PSA dual grade it. I guarantee the value of this has gone up significantly since I bought it. I guarantee I think it's at least doubled, if not more, since I bought it, just because of the nature of the growth of the soccer card market, vintage on-card autos, the popularity of these players, all those types of things. Here's a couple of others. Non-sports cards, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. That's pretty cool. I picked this up at Fanatics Fest this year in New York. Auto 10 on this one. He's still signing stuff, but super cool copy of that card. And then finally, you might have seen this on the channel before, Taylor Swift. This is her business card. This is her business card from 2006, before she was anybody, when she was playing in the country bars in Nashville, Tennessee, trying to get her first major recording contract. This was the business card that she was giving out to music producers who would come into the bars at Nashville that she was playing at, and it has her website, it has her MySpace on the back of it. Her MySpace. Isn't that funny? Her very first debut single called Tim McGraw, and she's trying to get people to listen to it on her MySpace. She gave this out to people who came into the bars, those music producers. In this case, she signed it, she dated it 2006. I think there's only 3 of these that have ever been authenticated autograph-wise. This might be the only one by PSA. I think the others are over at Beckett. Super rare, unbelievably rare. A little different from everything else I've showed you today, but this kind of autograph, on-card autograph collecting, it can come from any type of card, right? I just think I just geek out over this. Like, this is one of my favorite, these cards, these vintage on-card autos or on-card autos in general that are not from the manufacturer, but that are ones that were personally hand collected. It's just one of my very favorite types of cards. I love it. And I'm excited to bring this all to you today. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I want to mention, by the way, we were using market movers to price out, a lot of these cards today. Market movers can price out anything. It can price out anything from the most popular ultra modern cards all the way back to the most rare vintage on-card autos. If it has sold online in an auction, Market Movers is most likely going to have that data. And I want to give you a promo code. The promo code is DATA. If you go to marketmoversapp.com right now and you sign up for Market Movers and you use promo code DATA when you sign up, you're going to get 2 weeks of Market Movers for free, and you're going to get 20% off your subscription for life. It is the best deal going. It's promo code DATA, so go to marketmoversapp.com and use promo code DATA right now. That's it, guys. What do you think of vintage on-card autos and the future of that market? Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you watching, and I think next week, Teapot will be back. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.